Hello. In this video I'll be showing the basic steps for LAMMPS installation, configuration, along with explaining some useful tools that you can use in CCI. Along the way I'll be showing you how to navigate the CCI documentation and some of the shortcomings of the documentation itself. After installing LAMMPS, common tools to help set up an environment for your simulations include Curse, an interface for CMake, using proxies in CCI to install packages, and other notable operations like directory management through secure file transfer and directory mounting. The first thing you're going to want to do after you request access for CCI is to enable two-factor authentication. The two-factor authentication app is Google Authenticator, and whenever you log in, you'll be prompted for your PIN and your PIC. So you will SSH into your landing pad, or into the landing pad, your PIC, which will be some number of digits, and your Google Authenticator PIN. After that, enter your password. Do it right though. Alright, once you're in this SSH gateway landing pad, return to the CCI documentation, and one of the most helpful tools early on will be to set up passwordless SSH. So moving from the landing pad to your own portion of CCI will require you to SSH to another landing pad. The passwordless SSH documentation is on the CCI documentation. Once you're inside of your own landing pad, we can start installing LAMMPS. So most of the installation instructions are self-explanatory. It is a lot of copy and paste operations. Alright, after you have all of your modules loaded, we'll take a look at the basic structure of the directories in your landing pad. So Scratch and Barn. Think of Barn as a long-term folder. Scratch is a short-term folder. If files in Scratch aren't accessed within 56 days, the data can be purged from CCI without you doing anything. There's a version of each folder that's shared between users, so other users can change directories into your folders and view what you make available. So we'll go ahead and go to Scratch and start the installation. We're going to make a directory called LAMMPS We'll change directory into LAMMPS. As you can see, it's empty. Now, we reach our first hiccup. Git clone is going to require a proxy, which unfortunately the installation doesn't tell you. So before you execute more of the installation commands, go ahead and copy the proxy instructions. And now that you've set up a proxy, we can go back to the installation steps. And we can start downloading our own clone of LAMMPS. I'll be right back when it is done. And we're back. After you're done downloading LAMMPS, we're going to CD into our LAMMPS development folder. And you'll see all of these files. What we're going to do is we're going to run a make directory command. We're going to make a folder called build. Change directory into build. As you can see, it's empty. This is where we're going to run our CMake commands. So as you can see, all of these flags, the capital D flags, are handled in this initial CMake run command. Don't worry too much about that yet. I'll be going into curse GUI, which will help make it more intuitive. So for the initial run, go ahead and build our LAMMPS binaries. Alright. Now the next command is going to take a minute. This and the make install commands can take a second. So I'll pause until it's complete. You can see the percentages going up. Once it reaches 100%, you should be done. Alright, welcome back. Once the build has reached 100%, and you can type in the terminal again, we can start running commands to run simulations. So we'll request a Slurm session. Slurm is just the resource that CCI uses to queue all of the different jobs and allocate computing power to each job in the queue. We are already in LAMMPS dev. So we can go up one. Let's run a simulation. Alright, looking into the problem. Because memory is dynamically, or resources are dynamically allocated on CCI, your internal programs may not run. But if we type in SQUEUE, we're given a list of jobs that we have currently sent to the pool of dynamically allocated resources in CCI. So this tells us that we have one job, the job ID, the partition, and the name of the user that submitted the job. So while this job internally on our landing pad on the reserved node didn't complete due to the resources being allocated elsewhere, the job that we submitted to the job queue is running. So we'll move on to customizing your LAMMPS simulations. One of the things I wanted to talk about was curse. Curse is a GUI for building a CMake file. So if we go back to our build directory, it is very cluttered. It's okay. We'll run ccmake ... meaning the directory above CMake, and this will give us a list of all the configurable settings of LAMMPS. So here is where you will customize your LAMMPS download for the particular project you're using or you're doing. So as an example, if I wanted to enable molecule, I hit enter to turn it on. I press C. Curse will check what you've changed, and it'll prompt you if it requires anything from what you've changed. And then G to generate. This will generate a new build file to create a different set of binaries for the new build that you were making. So if we go back to our build or our make command, right, we can then build the binaries again using the new build file. I'm not going to run it to save time because nothing noticeably will change. Besides CMake, you can mount files from CCI onto your local computer to view them as, and this only works on Linux, but to view them as a directory on your computer. So let's start a new terminal. A lot of the same steps are used to mount as are to log in. So you can grab an SSH file server into your specific landing pad, and you mount it on a folder on your computer. After you type in your PIC and your token and your password, you can then view the files. So let's get that done. Alright, so now the directory that we established on our side would be mounts home. So if we change directory into we can now see all of the files that were on our landing pad accessible in our computer. So if I cd into Scratch where we downloaded LAMMPS, we can now access and change the files locally. Besides that, configuring a Slurm batch file would be the last thing. Now the Slurm job scheduler is going to require more of your time to look into, but this is a very good example batch script for a slurm.sh file, and starting from here is a good launching point for you. That is all I have for LAMMPS installation and LAMMPS tools.